Let's talk about where the debt debate is headed with two people very familiar with the inner workings of Congress and the White House. Joining us is Kevin Hassett. He's been an advisor to top congressional Republicans, and he also worked for John McCain's presidential campaigns. And Jim Manley spent 20 years as a top Senate aide for Democrats Ted Kennedy and Harry Reid. They both join me here now. So the stock and bond markets reacted yesterday at what seemed to be progress with this so-called Gang of Six proposal, $500 billion in immediate cuts, 3.7 over the next 10 years. Kevin, is there real support, real momentum here?
Well, I'm not really sure, because I spoke with some congressional insiders on the House side, and they suggested that the Gang of Six deal is so different from where the House is right now that anything that could pass the House couldn't even really conference with the Senate, so which means that they couldn't move towards an agreement. They couldn't begin the negotiation to split the difference because the bills are so far apart. So I think it's progress that you're seeing some bipartisan support for some action in the Senate side, but it's so far from the House that I'm not sure exactly how much progress it is.
So far from the House because what, 26% of it comes from new taxes?
Correct.
Jim, the idea, what Peter Cook was just telling us here, the idea is that, yes, maybe on paper this looks like progress, but it so complicates the calendar that this may mean we don't get any real progress by this Friday, by the sort of legislative deadline. Does this break the impasse, or does it create a new one?
I honestly don't think it's going to break the impasse. Let's try and figure out exactly where we are. We know a couple different things. Number one, that there's, with the White House there's a bipartisan group in the Senate that have acknowledged the need to deal with the debt limit. House Republicans do not. We have several different plans floating in the Senate, all of which have bipartisan support that can break the impasse, none of which can get out of the House as currently written. So the question is going to be whether the House leadership has the ability and or the willingness to try and break the impasse and try and get some sort of a deal. It's encouraging that the Gang of Six has come together. However, it's probably complicated Senator Reid's life in that there simply is not enough time to try and pass that massive piece of legislation through the Senate, given all the procedure hurdles that it's going to face.
Well, the Senator Reid, you just most recently worked for, has that McConnell-Reid Plan B type proposal that would allow for the debt ceiling to be raised and sort of push off some of the other questions. The idea is maybe you could reconcile the two, what the Gang of Six put forward yesterday and what's there with Plan B. Is it too optimistic to think that's possible?
No, I don't think so necessarily. I think probably what you're going to see is a kind of a two-track structure. You're going to see the efforts to try and deal with what Senator McConnell and Senator Reid are working on, plus as many cuts as possible to try and sweeten the pot, not only for Senate Republicans, but for House Republicans as well.
What remains, though? That's the question. What could make it into a Plan B, something to get us past August the 2nd?
Well, the fact is that we need probably 3 or 4 weeks to write the final bill, given how complicated it is. Jim knows all about this. And so there's going to have to be some kind of a punt involved. And whether it's Plan B or a little bit of an increase in the debt limit to get us to September, I just don't see the thing resolving fully in time. I mean, everybody's going to go home in August, and they don't have time to put it in legislative language.
But when you say a little bit of an increase, that Plan B is a 2.4 trillion in increased borrowing authority. That proposal would allow
I think you could go smaller than that. You could do
really?
a month or two's worth. Yeah.
And would that sort of patchwork agreement get more of the support that you say is lacking right now, particularly in the House?
I think that everybody's very nervous about the situation, and that kicking it down the road a little bit is something that probably would get very broad support, especially given just the argument that it takes so long to write these things up that they don't have time anymore to really write up the full agreement that they're talking about.
Kicking the can, kicking it down the road seems to be the phrase of this year, well, no matter what continent we're looking at right now. So to talk to, I mean, if both of you seem to be agreeing that nothing's possible in the next 2 days apart from some sort of increase in the debt ceiling, some sort of Plan B, C. I mean, How do we get anything done in the next 2 days?
Well, I put the odds at less than 50-50 myself. We'll have to wait and see. Senator Reid has asked Senator Mark Warner.
The odds for
trying to reach an agreement on a debt limit agreement by August.
Other than a plan B.
Correct, yes, at less than 50-50. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the upcoming White House meetings.
Yeah.
And Senator Reid
is there one today? Do you believe?
Senator Reid suggested on the floor last night that there was going to be a meeting today, though I don't think it's been announced yet. Senator Reid has also asked Senator Mark Warner, one of the leaders of the Gang of Six, to talk to his group and see what exactly they need and what they're looking for to put in a package to go along with what he and Senator McConnell have been working on. So we'll see how that plays out. But, I mean, the legislative calendar dictates that we need to start moving on something sooner rather than later, given the procedural hurdles we're facing. And as Kevin acknowledged as well, we haven't even discussed the need for CBO to score what's being contemplated. I'll never forget during the health care reform when we had to wait 5 agonizingly long extra days while CBO ran through some last-minute procedural
The
hoops.
budget office.
The Congressional Budget Office. Mr. Elmendorf, the head of the Congressional Budget Office, has already phoned Senator Reid or Senator Reid's staff to remind him that he's going to need some time and his staff is going to need some time to work through whatever is contemplated, whether it's the deal by Senator McConnell and Senator Reid or something that's bigger.
Kevin, did the president complicate things by endorsing or embracing the Gang of Six plan yesterday? Some have said that that's actually made it harder to get things done.
Oh, I disagree. I think it makes it easier to get things done because you're starting to see where the chips are. Once all the chips are on the table, then it's easier for people to make a judgment. I think that, you have to remember that the NFL owners and players have been negotiating over a new collective bargaining agreement, and I think they reached an agreement maybe almost a month ago, but we're not going to find out about the final agreement maybe until tomorrow. And that's a much simpler problem than what they're dealing with. And I think that the CBO will make a heroic effort to score the thing. But really, what's likely to happen is that by Friday, I would say it's more than 50% chance that there's some kind of can kicking down the road. And then after that, they agree to work on the legislative language when they return in September.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. Jim, good to talk to you. Thank you very much,
Thank you very much,
for giving us your insight.